All right, so we stopped at we stopped at the I, so now we're gonna cap off at the J. And where I'm at, I'm still giving the supreme alphabet. I'm at the J. So the J is justice, is the star, meaning our reward, regardless of whether it is one of happiness or sorrow. These are rewards and or penalties. Also, knowledge added on to the cipher, which is the reward. Just I see equality with which I have been blessed, which is the penalty Moors. Just ice to be frozen at 32 degrees Moors. I hope we're clear. I hope we're clear. The K, the king. God is the king of kings, meaning that God is the king, the only true king there is Moors. Ruler of a king or a kingdom is the equivalent of God, for this is self, or the Father he Moors. The king rules because he is wise and just, one who knows the ledge of his knowledge, for his word is life. In the beginning was the word, and the word is life Moors. So love, hell, or right, Lord Moors, and my 5%ers. Love is the emotion that God, that Allah blessed the woman with. Many man and woman possess this emotion, and to those who have failed to cope with it, have proven love to be a handicap. Love to those who have gotten over this burden realize that love is understanding. Love is understanding. That's why we say love, truth, peace, freedom, justice. Love is understanding and not two separate qualities, Moors. Understanding brings on love, or hate love brings on understanding Moors. Hatred Moors can be caused by what you understand or don't understand. Those who have realized the truth of love have proven that he, that she is a Lord. Lord is the equivalent of God, King, he, Father, and thereby abides in paradise, heaven, within. Hell is the home of the ignorant Moors, those who lack knowledge of self. God, Allah, shows his love by manifesting the knowledge of himself through his wisdom, which reveals the hell one must go through in order to be right Moors. Knowledge, the wisdom, to bring about an understanding, for love brings forth love Moors. The master, the M, is one who possesses 360 degrees of knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, the equivalent of Lord, he, King, Father, God, that is, I. Also, one who knows the ledge of his understanding, enabling him to manifest the culture, which is I, God, the knowledge, the understanding Moors, 5%ers. The N, the nation, the noun, the N. The noun is the time to get the knowledge Moors, 5%ers, of self or in a pit of ignorance. Nation, the united Asiatic people, dark and light. The pale person is a race with time now to avoid the wrath of the Asiatic nation, the God. We just talking science. We just talking knowledge, the culture to show the power, because nature goes with nature. The O, the cipher is a person, place, or being, a circle that consists of 360 degrees, or a cycle of life. A C, the I, the power, the for, the CI power, the for. That's power, that's her. I hope we understand the essence of what I'm saying, Moors. The P, the power, is strength, energy, magnetism. Truth is the ultimate power. The star, or the child, Moors. The knowledge, equality, is power. Therefore, knowledge will be born. That equality, Moors. The R, righteousness, the right ruler. A guide, which is Allah, which is God, the Asiatic man, used to keep everything right and exact. That's our workman tools, Moors. That's in our Quran. That's the Kemetic principles. The everything to keep us right and exact. The righteous are the Asiatic people according to nature, Moors. Right is the proper nature of things and people, Moors. Ruler is one who leads a king or a queen when the king is not physical present, Moors. Savior, self, is the one possessing the power of God, of Allah, and resurrects the people after first saving himself, herself. One who saves all who want to be saved, and add on to self, Moors. Self is the true reality of one, be it man or woman, Moors. Truth or square. Truth is understanding the reality of wisdom. Allah shows his powers and proves his powers and presence, that truth, regardless of what angles of a square, Moors. 90 degrees to each angle. 4 times 90 equals 360, Moors. The square is a multiple of 4, and the cube is 6, Moors. I hope you following me, Moors, and my 5 percenters. The U is the universe. The universe is the home of galaxies, which is home to our solar system. The universe owns and belongs to all Asiatic men and women. The U, the U, the U, the U, the U, the U, Moors. An I verse. U is pertaining to the woman when dealing in completing the home, which is the child. U also means self, king, savior, queen, her, woman. The V, the victory, to obtain the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. A man that is blind, deaf, and dumb has to take on the seal of victory to win. The W, Moors, the wisdom, is wise words spoken by a wise man, a wise woman. This is power, Moors, my 5 percenters. When Allah speaks, it is called wisdom. For when he speaks, for she speaks, it is like an ocean that would never go dry, Moors, and my 5 percenters. Wisdom is the woman. The X, the unknown, is the identity of self, Moors, woman, man, and God, because they are not wise to their true culture, Moors. The X in genetics is the female factor of the chromosome, Moors. We talking about science, Moors. I gave the supreme mathematics. We almost done with the supreme alphabet. The why. The why, the question most asked to justify. Why does he like the devil, per se? Why does the devil call our people African? Why are there so many of our people still dead? This is because of their own doing, Moors. Not accepting the God within. Some brothers can't accept that God and man is one, that Allah and man is one, and it's right in the text. Brothers just getting you with their religious dogma. God don't pray to God. The servant went out and prayed. That was for God to rest and do his thing. This is because of their own doing. In genetics, the male factor or the chromosome is Y. God, Allah, knowledge of the Y has 3 points, Moors. Foundation, right point, and left point, Moors. The Z, the zig, the zag, the zig, meaning knowledge and understanding, are alike, and zig is unalike. I hope we connecting these dots, Moors. When we talk about heaven and hell, this within. And when I use analogies, when I'm talking about the thermostat, and I use the thermostat for an analogy, and I say, do you think the thermostat has to go outside of itself for hot and cold? No, you just change the thermostat. The pendulum goes to one level. But the essence is in both. Happy and sad is all in the essence of man. In more science, 5% is Allah, man is one. 120 degrees, Moors. 120 degrees. You understand what we're saying? So, as I did a little highlight on that little bit of, I'll say just a little bit of a history, I'm going to give a little bit of this, of the Supreme Wisdom Lessons by Master Farah Muhammad. And a lot of the stuff was studied. A lot of the same. Clarence X and the 5 percenters. A lot of stuff. We get into the essence of things, Moors. The essence of things. And I hope a lot of my brothers that's that's knowledge and study knowledge. And I show brothers, oh, you can't get mad at certain people in certain groups you are, because some brothers are where they are with their wisdom. And when you can tell when a person is not operating in their higher self because they reject wisdom. And if you want to know, it's okay for us to know. So I'm going to give instruction given to laborers by Fire Muhammad. Some of the stuff that was given when we connect the dots. Let me see. I want to get to something specific. Let's see. According to the Holy Quran, Surah, Ayat, whatever you want to call it, 59:7, the Muslims were very poor when they first started to teach Islam, and all contribution was given to Allah's apostle for him and his family support, blah, blah, blah. Let me get down to some more good stuff, because I want to start with some of the lessons. And for I hope more know what I'm saying. And brothers, okay, here we go. All right. Problem number 13. Some of the stuff that I hope we connect the dots. After learning mathematics, which is Islam, and Islam is mathematics, and Islam is mathematics, it stands true. You can always prove it at no limit of time. Then you must learn to use it and secure some benefit while you are living. That is, luxury, money, goods, home, friends, in all walks of life. Sit yourself in heaven at once. That is the greatest desire of your brother and teachers. Now you must speak the language so you can use your mathematical theology in the proper term. Otherwise, you will not be successful unless you do speak well, for she knows all about you. The security of Islam offers a reward to the best and neatest worker of the problem. There are 26 letters in the language, and if a student learns one letter per day, then how long would it take him to learn 26 letters? There are 10 numbers in the mathematical language. Then how long would it take a student to learn the whole 10 numbers at the above rate? The average man speaks 400 words considered well. So what I'm saying, Moors, after learning mathematics, which is Islam, and Islam is mathematics, it stands true. You can always prove it at no limit of time, Moors, my 5%ers. Then we must learn to use it and secure some benefits while we are living. That can be our luxury, money, etc., home, friendship in all walks of life, Moors. So we must sit ourselves in heaven at once. That is the greatest desire of your brothers and teachers, Moors. Now we must speak the language so we can use our mathematical theology in the proper term. Otherwise, we will not be successful unless we do speak well. For she knows all about us, Moors. I hope we understand the essence of what I'm saying. The Secretary of Islam offers a reward to the best and neatest worker of the problem. There are 26 letters in the language. And if a student learns one letter per day, Moors, my 5%ers, then how long would it take him or her to learn the 26 letters, Moors? There are 10 numbers in mathematical language, Moors, and my 5%ers. Then how long would it take a student to learn the whole 10 numbers at that same above rate? The average man speaks 400 words. Consider well. But here are some actual facts. The total area of the land and water of the planet Earth. These are things we know. We study. The circumference of the planet Earth is 24,896 miles. The diameter of the Earth. These are the things that we go over when we talk about historical facts. The area of the land, the area of the water, etc. I can go over all that, but I just want to touch on some bases. That when I say we build bridges, it's not walls. Student enrollment, rules of Islam. The following questions must be answered 100% before submittance of a student said. That's why I be saying, if you're talking to a brother and he's under some Islam and he's operating under his own understanding of evilness, that's bullcrap. So, who is the original man? This is what they're supposed to know. Who is the colored man? What is the population of the original nation in the wilderness of North America and all over the planet Earth? What is the population of the colored people in the wilderness of North America and all over the earth? What is the area in the square mile of the planet Earth? How much is the land? How much is the water? What are the exact square miles, etc.? What is the birth record of the said nations other than Islam? All type of stuff. The original man is the Asiatic black man, the maker, the owner, the cream of the planet Earth, father of civilization, God of the universe, The colored man is the Caucasian white man. Are you listening to me? In parentheses, or Yaqub's grafted devil. See, that's when I talk about scripture, when you got to understand what words mean about grafted. Grafted in science. But that's a whole nother teaching. The population of the original nation in the wilderness of North America, 17 million. One with the 2 million Indians make it 19 million. All over the planet Earth. We got to understand this. The population of the colored people in the wilderness. We got to understand what that 103 million. We got to understand certain things. The square mileage of the earth, the land, the water, the useful land that is used every day by the total population of the planet Earth. This all the stuff that's in lessons. When brothers be going around with that anger and that hate, I said, dang, love. Lost and found Muslim lessons. Why isn't the devil settled on the best part of the planet Earth? The answer, because the earth belonged to the original black man. And knowing that the devil was wicked and there would not be any peace among them, he put him out in the worst part of the earth and kept the best part preserved for himself ever since he made it. The best part is Arabia, the holy city, Mecca. The colored man or Caucasian is the devil. When I'm talking about the word black, bleach, I touch it all. Why did Musa have a hard time to civilize the devil in 2000 BC? Answer, because he was a savage. Savage means a person that has lost the knowledge of himself, herself, and who is living a beast life. Musa was a half original man and a prophet. 2000 BC means before Christ. In the Asiatic world, it was the 11,000 hour. Civilized means to teach the knowledge and wisdom of the human family of the planet Earth, Moors, and my 5%ers. Why did we let half original man, Columbus, discover the poor part of the planet per se? Answer, because the original man is the God and owner of the earth and knows every square inch of it, Moors, and has chosen for himself the best part. He did not care about the poor part. These are the lessons. Columbus was a half original man, was born in Italy, which is Southeast Europe. His full name was Christopher Columbus, and the place he discovered was North America. He found the Indians per se, here who were exiled 16,000 years ago from India. They are original people. So in the lessons, I'm reading the lessons, Moors, and my 5%ers and my Muslim brothers that's operating in hate. We don't do that. Why did they run Yaqub and his maid devil from the root of civilization over the hot desert in the caves of West Asia, as they now call it, Europe? What is the meaning of EU, U, and rope? How long ago? What did the devil bring with him? What kind of life did he live? And how long did Musa come to teach the devil of the forgotten trigonometry? This is the lessons. Answer, because they had started making trouble among the righteous people, telling lies, etc. I can go on and on. Moses came 2,000 years later and taught him how to live a respectable life, etc. Why did we take Jerusalem from the devil? How long ago? Answer, because one of our righteous brothers, who was a prophet by the name of Jesus, but in the holy name, and never with a J in the Hebrew alphabet, Yeshua, was buried there. He used his name to shield his dirty religion, which is called Christianity. The etymon, when I tell Moors, we get to the etymology of words. But all in the scriptures, they wasn't no Christians. Acts 24:5, this is a pestilent fellow, the ringleader of the Nazarenes. That's a whole nother story. Also to deceive the people so they will believe in him. Jesus, which was Yeshua, teaching was not Christianity. It was freedom and justice and equality. Jerusalem is in Palestine, which is Asia Minor. Jerusalem is a name given by Jews, which means founded in peace. And it was first built by the original man, who was called Jebus, also Salim and Ariel. That's why if they knew once they gave you Egypt, they have to give you Israel. But that's a whole other teaching. We took the city from the devil about 750 years ago, Moors. Why does the devil call our people Africans? To make our people of North America believe that the people on the continent are the only people they have and are all savages, Moors. He bought a trading post in the jungle of that continent. The original people live on this continent, and they are the ones who strayed away from civilization and are living in a jungle life, Moors. The original people called this continent Asia, but the devil called it Africa. to try to deceive the people. Are we clear? I hope you're following Moors. The satanic spirit wants you to think different. He wants us to think that we are all different. Why does the devil keep our people illiterate, Moors? So that satanic spirit can use them for a tool, also a slave, to keep people blinded to themselves, so that satanic spirit can master you with ignorance, with illiterance. It means ignorance. You know, that ignorance. That's what that's about. Because he does not want us to know how filthy he is. Because when we learn about those things, we knock it away. Why does Muhammad make the devil study from 35 to 50 years before he can call himself a Muslim son and wear the greatest and only flag of the universe? And he must add a sword on the upper part of the holy and greatest universe flag of Islam. Why, you may ask? So that he could clean himself up. A Muslim does not love the devil regardless to how long he studies. After he has devoted 35 or 50 years trying to learn and to do like original man, he could come and do trading amongst us, and we would not kill him as quick as we would the other devils, that is, who have not gone under this study. This is your teachings. These are the most honorable Elijah Muhammad for the lost foundation of Islam. When I tell Moors, I'm welcome in all houses. I build bridges. The sword is the emblem of justice, and it was used by the original man in Muhammad's time. Thus it was placed on the upper part of the flag, so that the devil can always see it. So he will keep in mind that at any time he reveals the secret, his head will be taken off by the sword. We give him the chance so that he could clean himself up and come along or come amongst us. Y'all got to know this. That's why they call themselves sons of Muslims. That's why they do everything in clandestine. The holy flag of Islam is the greatest and only flag known. The red flag, we know that. The green star, the universe is everything. The sun, the moon, the stars. They are the planets. The planets are something grown or made from the beginning, Moors. And the holy is something that has not been diluted, mixed, or tampered with in any form, Moors. Why did Muhammad and any Muslim under the devil murder the devil? What is the duty of each Muslim in regard to 4 devils? What reward does a Muslim receive by presenting the 4 devils at one time? Answer: because he is 100% wicked and would not keep and obey the laws of Islam. His ways and actions are like a snake of the grafted type. So Muhammad learned that he could not reform the devil, so they had to be murdered. All Muslims will murder the devil. They know he is a snake, and also he be allowed to live. He will sting someone else. Each Muslim is required to bring forth each Muslim is required to bring 4 devils. And by bringing and presenting 4 at one time, Moors, his reward is a button to wear on the lapel of his coat. Also, a free transportation in the holy city, which is Mecca, to see Brother Muhammad. Have you not learned about your word or your word shall be bond regardless of whom or what? Moors, my 5%ers and my Muslim brothers? The answer is yes. My word is bond, and bond is my life. And I will give my life before my word shall fail. So my brothers, that FOI, I'm welcoming all. What is the meaning of FOI? The fruit of Islam, the name given to the military training of men that belonging to Islam in North America. What is the meaning of Lu or lieutenant or LIEU period and captain? Captain, lieutenant, the duty of the captain is to give orders. We know what this means, I hope, Moors. First term examination assignment of Mr. Elijah Muhammad. Who made the Holy Quran or Bible? How long ago? Will you tell us? Why does Islam renew her history every 25,000 years? Answer: the Holy Quran or Bible is made by the original people? I will repeat, the Holy Quran or Bible is made by the original people, who is Allah, the Supreme Being, or in parentheses, black man of Asia. The Quran will expire in the year 25,980 years from the date of this writing. The Nation of Islam is all wise and does everything right and exact. This is what they said it's supposed to be. That's why I'm saying it's a type. If a person operating on the tenets, then they're right. The planet Earth, which is the home of Islam, and is approximately 25,000 miles in circumference. So the wise man of the East, which is an Asiatic man, the black man per se, makes history or Quran to equal his home circumference a year to every mile. I hope you follow me more as my 5%ers. And thus, every time his history lasts 25,000 years, he renews it for another 25,000 years. I hope you understand it. What is the circumference? The answer, 24,896 miles, approximately 25,000 miles. What is this diameter of the planet? 7,926 miles. 7,926 miles. What is the total square mileage? 196,940,000 square miles. How much is the land of the water? You may ask. What is the total weight of our planet? How fast does our planet travel per hour? What makes rain, hail, snow, and earthquake? It's certain things we got to know. Why does the devil teach the 85% that a mighty God brings all things? Why? To conceal true God, which is the Son of Man, and make slaves out of the 85%ers by keeping them worshiping something he knows they cannot see, which is invisible. Some pie in the sky. And he lives and makes himself rich from their labor. The 85% knows that it rains, hails, and snows. Also, Morris and my 5%ers hears its thunder above his head, but they do not try to learn who is that cause all this to happen by letting the 5% teach us. We have to let the ones that's willing to do the work, the 5%, do the teaching. But he believes in the 10% on face value, Morris. Who is this mystery God? What is this mystery God? It ain't no mystery God. The Son of Man has searched for that mystery God for trillions of years and was unable to find a mystery God. We searched on the religious cross. We traveled. We searched for it, Morris. If you understand the essence, they have agreed that the only God is the Son of Man, Morris, my 5%ers, my Muslim brothers. So they lose no time searching for that does not exist. So will you sit at home and wait for that mystery God to bring you food? I hope not. Who is the 85%? The uncivilized people who poison animals, to eat the animals, the slaves from mental death and the power, the people who do not know the living God or their original in this world, and they worship that they know not what, Moors, who are easily led in the wrong direction, miseducated, but hard to lead into the right direction. Those are the 85%ers. The 10%. And when we say rich, rich on both levels, mentally and physically and spiritually, that keep you blind. Slave makers can be your brother. Believing that the Almighty, the true and loving, is some spookism. That ain't it. Who is the 5%ers? Us. The ones that's poor, and meaning it's poor that your people won't listen. The teachers, the righteous, the poor righteous teachers. I'm talking about essence, the poor righteous teachers. I'm talking about science, who do not believe in the teachings of the 10% and are all wise, understanding all law, and know who the living God is, and teach that the living God is the Son of Man and the Supreme Being, the black man per se, from Asia, and teach freedom, love, truth, peace, freedom, justice, equality to all human family of the earth, otherwise known as civilized people, also known as Muslims, sons. Come on, man. What is the duty of civilized persons? To teach the uncivilized people who are savage, civilization, righteousness, knowledge of self, knowledge of himself, the science of everything in life, love, peace, and happiness. If a civilized person does not perform his duty, which is teaching civilization to others Moors, they should be punished with a severe punishment. You can read that in Ezekiel chapter 3, verse 18, St. Luke chapter 12, verse 47. What is the prescribed law of Islam? Of said person of the ability? That the civilized person is held responsible for the uncivilized, and she must be punished by the nation. The Islamism. Come on, I'm talking about the essence. I ain't talking about no religious dogma. I ain't talking about no religious dogma. So we got to get into essence of things, Moors. Essence of things. That's what this is all about. Bringing things together. Connecting the dots. Making sure that we do things the right way. When brothers be operating and they say they Muslim, and I don't care if you under some religious nation of Islam, when you operate in hate, that ain't what the essence of that is. The real Indian is the Negro, aka the Blackamoor. I'm gonna teach on this. You know, the Qara, called Kufic scripture, is the earliest Qara, so-called Arabic script, and is related to the family of Muhammad through Ali, Fatima, and Bilal. Bilal's descendants moved through Africa to West Africa, present-day Morocco, and across the seas to the Americas, and left the inscriptions in Nevada at a school established there. The Arabic script, Khatt, K-H-A-T-T, is the one which is known as Kufic, K-U-F-I-C. From it evolved all the present pens. Note from Abi Abbas, Ahmad al-Qurashkanda, Kibath Suda al-Asha in 1914, volume 3, Dara al-Kubath and al-Kidwathya and al-Qira, page 15. The ancient Kufi scripture was employed from the Arabic language before the modern Arabic came into general use. The example dates approximately 700 AD and occurs in Nevada, USA, where it was mistaken for the Amerindian markings of about 1000 BC. It is actually a religious text, and it reads, Naba Allah Muhammad. Allah's prophet is Muhammad. It was probably cut into the rock as part of the permanent school lessons of the Muslim settlers of the Southwest. Sample of the words from Saga America by Barry Fell. The origin of Kufic, or the angular style of Arabic script, is traced back to about 100 years before the foundation of Kufa, 17H-638 CE, to which town it owes its name because of its development there. Note from S.M. Iman Umdin, Arabic, written in Arab libraries, 1983, Taha Publishers, London, page 12. I repeat, research that. The note from the S.M. Imandudin, S.M.I.M.A.M.U.D.I.N.N, the Arabic writing, and Arab libraries, 1983, the Taha Publishers. You see what I'm saying, Morris? I'm almost done because I got to eat. But I'm going to touch on this one tomorrow. And this is just talking about the real Indian is the Negro, a.k.a. the Blackamoor, Morris. And the purpose of this lecture, when I did it on the college campus, I'm just highlighting it. It's with some of the most important secret histories, or I like to say sacred, because they ain't nothing secret, but sacred histories directly related to black people in America that pertain directly to the subject and discussion of reparations and restoration. The so-called forbidden ideal in America is what? It is never to allow our nation, the so-called black people, to know we are indigenous to the land. Yes, we were an indigenous nation. That is the history we have not known. And if this writing, this lecture, is to be a study, a tool, and to spark the interest in further scholarly studies on our indigenous past and its connection to the reparations, the restoration movement, the records of our past, the records of our past Moors, American, are ancient and very real. They are prior to any settler or any settlement of Europeans who who verify this in record. This is verified. Negroes as the original Indians, proof in the Jesuit letters. And then I'm going to be done. I'm going to touch on this tomorrow. The book Africans and Native Americans by Jack Forbes paints a very different picture of the history that what most of us were taught about the origins of the per se black people in the Western Hemisphere Moors. We were taught that black people came from Africa as slaves, that the red Indian was the true Native American, and that white people took black slaves from Africa and stole the land of the red Indians. This story is nothing but a giant fiction, a novel made up by white historians to deceive the masses about the original history and people of the Americas. Jack Forbes uses the letters of the Jesuits missionaries to prove that Negroes or black Moors were the first Americans, and in fact were the black and olive tone people found in the Western Hemisphere. Commenting from the Jesuit letters of the appearance of the Native Americans, Forbes states, and I quote Moors, for example, in 1519, it was said of the Brazilians, non sono, neri, ni blanche, ma di colore da uvel. This is, they are not black or white, but olive of color. But the same writer remarked that the Brazilian canoe men he saw were so black that they could have been taken for sailors on the sea of the Styx, or the Styx. That means inhale Moors, the STYX. The author also continues in his comments on the appearance of the native in North America from the Jesuit letters, and I quote Moors, and I quote from the Jesuit letters. The term Negro and Indios, I-N-D-I-O-S, were used interchangeably to describe the native in the journals of the early missionaries, who could not have possibly been referring to Africans. Missionaries were nothing but conquerors, Moors. It's in their letters. That's why when I start breaking out history, the Jesuit letters, there's so much history I don't have that I don't even break out because I'll be bringing so much stuff from my other library. So I get into history. So let's finish from 1549 through 1565 Moors and my 5 percenters. The letters of the Jesuit missionaries in Brazil, usually addressed to colleagues in Portugal or Spain, frequently refers to the Americans as Negroes. In April of 1549, Manuel de Nobrega researched this. Manuel Denobrega, the leader of the Jesuits, answered a letter from Bahia to Acima Rodriguez in Lisbon, in which he refers to the Portuguese in Brazil as living in sin because of their having many negras and lots of children by the said black women. Thus, the Jesuit father called the American women living with Portuguese men negras, a term which, according to Liet, could not have denoted people from Africa because in 1549 there were few or no African women in Bahia, B-A-H-I-A. Nonetheless, Nobrega used the word Indio, I-N-D-I-O. When Africans are referred to in the Jesuit letters, they are always called Negroes da Guiana, or blacks of Guiana or Guinea, to distinguish them from the Negroes or the de Terra, the blacks of the land of the Americas. A very interesting letter is one prepared by Dos Minos, do Calero, de Jesus or de Jesus da Bahia, that is by young Americans studying in the school, Diago Tampimpaya, and the Quantina. Although probably edited by a Jesuit, this may represent the first letter written by Americans in a European language from Brazil. In it, they refer to an American letter, El Grillo, as a Negro, and to other native as Negroes. We find, for example, El Grillo, Elgrillo Moors, who is a Negro very well known and feared among them, and that El Grillo es Negro, muy grave. El Grillo was at the same time an Indi, pagan, and a friend of the Portuguese. In August 1552, Nobrega wrote from Bahia, which is South America, to Lisbon, which is Portugal, referring to the native peoples as Negroes. In May 1554, Antonio Blackwees from Porto Seguro wrote to the Jesuits of Coimbra, and he wrote, Yo Citos Espina, or I'm going to speak it in English. The history, as recorded by their own white hand, bears witness that the black people are the, I read the letter. That is, he was preaching to the Americans called Negroes. He also referred to the Negroes as Los Malacusos, Des La Tierra, and Pupils. The editor notes that by Negroes and Negras, he meant Indos and Indas, or Indias, Indios and Indias. The history as recorded by their own white hands. When I say their pens, Moors, bears witness that the black people are the indigenous and first Americans. America, stemming from the intercourse of Vespucci and Columbus with indigenous blacks in Central America, Amoru, the use above of Mamalicious to describe the Negroes, which steams back to Kara al-Quanin, the Arabic word for Maluk, also shows the indigenous Moors presence in the Americas. This history spanned from the first encounters of the Europeans with our ancestors to the establishment of the United States of America. So what I said, Moors, is that we must understand that the America stemming from the intercourse of Vespucci and Columbus with indigenous blacks in Central America, Amaru, the use above of malicious to describe the Negroes, which stems back to the Kara or the Algonquian or the Arabic word Mamluk or Mamluk, also shows the indigenous Moorish presence in the Americas. The history spanned from the first encounters of the Europeans with our ancestors to the establishment of the United States of America and the Revolutionary War period, Moors. The Dutch artist Van Verselet painted these paintings, and I'm going to show you, of the so-called Mohawk chief who visited London in 1710. The paintings were housed in Kensington Palace. Kensington, which is an area in Philadelphia, named after the palace held the original name, Shakamaxum, meaning the black spiritual priest of God, and Shakum Aksum, the original name of the Mohawks in Canaanite, which resembles Canaan. Israel, Phoenicians, the center picture is the chief of the Creek Confederacy, Tomosinki, Tomochichi, Tomochichi. I hope I'm saying it right. Forgive my pronunciation. And members of his nation in England, 1736, having intercourse with James Oglethorpe, then proprietor of the colony of Georgia. See? This is the stuff that's in history that they keep locked up. I'm telling you. The language of the Indians, a.k.a. Negroes, Algonquian, I might be pronouncing it wrong, Algonquin, and Arabic are essentially the same language, which goes back to what? Metu Neter, the hieroglyphics. Come on, Moors. I will say it again. The language of the Indians, a.k.a. the Negroes, Moors, Algonquian, and Arabic are essentially the same language which goes back to Medu Neter, the hieroglyphics, the Ephograph Society. While examining the Al-Quirion materials in the Peabody Museum collection at Harvard University, my attention was drawn by Mr. Joseph Germano to an old birchbark manuscript labeled as of Cree origin, carrying 2 horizontal lines of script, letters in black. The script I was Mr. Rivalry of Rome, totally destroyed by the Emperor Aurelians in 272 AD. The scribe found on the stills in the ruins of Palmyra was deciphered in modern times, and it seems inconceivable that any career Indian could have become acquainted with it a century ago. Here we go. I'm going to show you the Arabic forms, the modern Parium, the Cree Ojibwa, the Arabic forms, the modern, and the Cree Ojibwa. When we just connect the dots, you see? You see? I hope we see this. We connect the dots, Morris, and we get out that all that false line and stuff. That we ain't about that, man. We ain't about that. Native Coke Moors, Lunuita people, the Lunu people, Lunu or Lenape equals the Napicoke Moors, the chief tribe of the Wabanaki or the Wabanka Confederation of Moors, was the Delaware of Lunu or Lenabe, if I'm pronouncing it right. Were they black people and are African Americans, the descendants of the Moors? William Penn eyewitness account of Lenape, Naticoke Moors. The first detailed description of Delawares in a letter from William Penn to the Committee of the Free Society of Traders in 1683. He wrote, "For their persons, they are generally tall, straight, well-built, and of singular proportion. They tread strong and clever, and mostly walk with a lofty chin, of complexion, black, but by design, as the gypsies. Black as gypsies, as Egyptians in England. They grease themselves with bear fat, clarified as using no defense against the sun or weather. Their skin must be swarthy." Come on, man. Y'all got to understand what this means. Source, William Penn to the Committee of the Free Society of Traders in 1683. Chief Tanneman, the Blackamoor, chiefs of Turtle Island, Sheikh Camium of Philadelphia. I'm going to show you a picture. We don't argue. I'm not here, like I said, when brothers be arguing, talk about this and that, I say, man, I'm just a historian. A lot of Moors be arguing about religion because they're not historians. I don't get into religion. And that's why a lot of Moors are arguing, because they mixing religion and history, and they don't know history. They're not in the museums, in the Spanish Museum, in the British Museum. That's Chief Tainum, the Blackamoor, chief of Turtle Island, Skakanum, Philadelphia. Research it. Research it, Moors. Please, I hope we do. We can eliminate all arguments. We can eliminate all arguments. We can eliminate all arguments. Come on, that's what we're supposed to do. Wisdom speaks, man. Son of Saint Tamanai, a.k.a. Son of Liberty, worship a Moorish chief. You see him standing on the turtle. I mean, that's why I be laughing. I be like, man, brothers they just arguing over things. I'm like, that's not history. We don't have to argue when we know history. The 3-branch system was copied from the Moors, so-called Delaware, Lipani, Naticoke Moors of America, Amini, executive chief enforcer, Moonside, judicial interpreters, and Aktugai, legislative, 50 women, oral law traditions. As all nations have for 7 centuries adopted 4 great perfanage, remarkable for his virtues and love for civil, etc. I mean, I could go on and read it all in a day. You see it, it's here. The 3-branch system was copied from the Moors, so-called Delaware, Lenape, Naticoke Moors of Anami. Come on, man. You gotta listen to nobody with that bull crap telling you about history. They're not even historians. They don't have no historical documents. Chief Blackhawk or Matkinash Mineka. And I'm going to show you some pictures. Chief Blackhawk was chief of the Shock or the Shock. S-A-U-K or S-A-K-H. His birth date is not known. The name Black Hawk is reminiscent of the Black Hawk or falcon of Kemetic tradition representing Horus or Heru, the resurrected son of Osiris, the anointed one. Excuse me, Morris. Black Hawk was born Makata Meshika. Mashiach is the Hebrew word for Messiah. Literally means the anointed. As we can see, this is a part of his name. His last public appearance was, ironically, July 4th, 1837, a special day in ancient Moorish Israelite Egyptian culture. It respected the astronomical science, Moors. His attire, in this painting I'm going to show you, is very Moorish. And in tradition, Black Hawk was a terror for the Europeans in the 1800s. And is part of a legacy of black people who have been written off under the Red Indian history and disassociated from black people and the lineal ancestry of which we are. The resemblance of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is strikingly similar. I'm going to show you a picture. Look. Look. You see that? Strikingly resemble the picture of him, ain't it? That's why certain things be hid in history. You see? So we ain't got to go with nobody with their dogma. United States allegedly for the purpose of exploring the unknown territory from the western edge of the colonies to the Pacific. The true intention was to spy on the indigenous black people who were in America prior to the Europeans' invasion and the colonization. Captain Meriwether Lewis and Lieutenant William Clark of the United States Army used a black man named York, who was also the son of Yusuf bin Ali, also with a native woman named Sisonis Sakwaniqua, found on the millennial edition of the dollar, with her son John Baptiste Carbonimio, if I'm pronouncing it right, to be their interpreters as they gathered intelligence. Moors researched a book called The Return of the Ancient Ones. Empress Tiara Verdes Washita reports, and I quote, Lewis and Clark documented everything in sight: the weather, the planets, the rocks, the minerals found, people by tribe, habits, color, by warlike activities, and it was documented a bushy headed tribe who did not like the red man or the white man. The black bushy headed Washitas, now please example with history, did not make us aware of this important fact. It was because they went to spy on the Washitas, a people that the good old United States had signed to be their protectors or their protectorates over their rights, their land, and their property. John Sibley reports in the Lewis and Clark documents. That's why you can research in the Smithsonian lot in a museum. They got the Empress hidden under a black wall. It's there. Choctaw. There are rambling hunting parties of them to be met with all over Louisiana. They are at war with the Chaldeans and linked by neither the red nor the white people. This was April 5th, 1805. To the right is Mashach, another chief with an Aramaic Hebrew name. Mashiach or Mashiach means the one with man's horn. This is the painting show that represents his chiefdom. And his father were recorded to have been in 18 battles with the United States and never lost one. He and his father were allies of Black Hawk or Makatai Mishka. He traveled with his father to Washington, D.C. in 1824 to meet with President John Quincy Adams. The Secretary of State was Henry Clay. These two, Adam and Clay, were later ordered by Abdur Rahman Ibn Hisham to release Abram Ibn Sori, the prince of the slaves, in 1828. Abraham had been touring all over the West speaking with these chiefs about the laws and were being used to free him under the Moorish status. In 1840s, the government made many treaties with the Native Americans and lands deals in Oklahoma, Louisiana, and Kansas. John Quitman and Eliza Tunica, the father and mother of Noble Drew Ali, among many other family members, were part of these transactions and interactions. John Quitman and Eliza Tunica, the father and mother of Noble Drew Ali. After Lewis and Clark's spy mission, the United States brought 59 European families into the Louisiana territory. under the guard of the United States Army. The military poisoned the water supply with the intent of murdering off the original indigenous black population. They brought their school curriculums as they enslaved and murdered the black populations, making claims that they, the indigenous peoples, were fugitives from justice under constitutional laws and were European property from Africa. Bullcrap. However, excuse me, Moors. I'm almost done, excuse me, Moors. However, the people did not consider themselves by nationality or status as Africans until this was breeded into them. The indigenous people in Africa did not originally call themselves Africans. They were of Tamari and were Moors, M-U-U-R-S. This word African is a word of the white colonizer. There is evidence of this deceptive activity to falsify our status that is undeniable. It was part of a plan to wipe out our indigenous history in America. The names like Tunica and Washita were turned into Turner and Washington. I'm telling you, Moors. Wars with the Moors, 1752, the so-called French and Indian Wars, were wars between the Moors, the Black Knight Templars families, and the Aboriginal Moors versus the British colonists and Great Britain. In 1776, the sons of Saint Tammany allied with the Moors to fight against the British colonists and Great Britain. Some of the British colonists infiltrated the Moors and Sons of Liberty, aka Sons of Saint Tammany, in order to overthrow the Moors. They were people like Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, Andrew Hamilton, Benjamin Franklin, etc. Moors titled Negroes by United States. Statements from General Thomas Jessup. This, you may be assured, is a Negro, not an Indian war. And if it be not speedily put down, the South will feel the effects of it on their slave population before the end of the next season. Major General Jessup, June 1837, in America's State Papers, Military Affairs, cited in Kenneth W. Porter, The Negro on the American Frontier, New York, 1971. Pages 5, it said, Major General from the Negro of the Midway Frontier, if the wars be carried on, its necessarily be one of extermination. We have, at no former period of our history, had to content with so formidable an enemy. No symbol proved false to this country, nor has a single instance ever occurred of a first-rate warrior has surrendered. Throughout my operations, I found the Negroes the most active and determined warriors, and during the conferences with the Indian chiefs, I ascertained they exercised an almost controlling influence over them. The Negroes ruled the Indians. Are we understand the history? We reading science. And we're almost done. Many of the original black inhabitants began to flee from Western Territory, and many inhabitants sought refuge in Florida, and some went further west to California and mingled with other unaffected indigenous populations. In 1816, a U.S. colonial named Duncan Clinch led an army into Florida to destroy what was called the Black Fort, or Fort Negro. Colonial Duncan Clinch led an army of Red Creek mercenaries and warriors, and 200 women and children. The few warriors were led back to the United States in slavery. In his initial order, General Jackson had asked that they not only destroy the fort, but return the stolen Negroes and property to their original owners. But the question remains, did these Aboriginals see themselves as slaves, foreigners, or property of the Europeans, as African Negroes or colored people? No. In Colonial Duncan Clinch's report of the Battle of Fort Negro, the first U.S. invasion of Florida, and the information provides facts to the contrary. Colonial Clinch reports, it reads, and I'm reading Moors. Fort Negro, 1816. In the evening, a deputation of chiefs went into the fort and demanded its surrender, but they were abused and treated with the utmost contempt. The black chief heaped much abuse on the Americans and said he had been left in command of the fort by the British government and that he would sink any American vessel that should attempt to pass it and would blow up the fort if he could not defend it. The chief also informed me that the Negroes had a red flag and the English Jack was flying it over. The question that must be answered is, were those people former slaves? Was their purpose for flying the two flags they were flying? Slaves do not have flags. A flag represents a nation. What nations did they represent? There were cannons in use at Fort Negro. It is a well-known fact in history that the cannon was developed by the Moors in North Africa and Spain. The Moors had not only made the fire stick, as mentioned that I mentioned above, Moors, but even cannon forged from wrought iron. The two flags represented Great Britain and the indigenous Moorish Empire. They represented a nation of indigenous Moors. This is the same Islamic empire in the east that Abu Bakr brought of Mansu Musa was under when he brought 400 ships to America in 1311 AD, Moors. It is the flag that the chief was flying at the Black Fort in Florida in 1816, Moors. Was there a continuous Moorish connection from 1311 with arrival of Moors from the east that is documented in Africa and America until 1816? The documented dates for the presence of documentary Eastern Moors go as far back as 700 AD, as we have shown with the inscriptions found from ancient Nevada school bearing the name of Muhammad as the prophet of Allah, Moors. In a book entitled What Y'all Know, Our Circle 7 Quran, divinely prepared by Noble Drew Ali, it asks the questions. You know? What kind of flag is Moorish? It is the red flag with a 5-pointed green star in the middle. The star was added by colonizers' French authority to the Moorish Sharifian flag in Morocco on November 17, 1915, after France's colonial occupation began. Before this period, it was a completely red flag. It represented the Muslims, the Moors of the Maghreb, of the West Africa, the Americas, who were traveling back and forth from Africa to America, who were established as indigenous to both lands. Many of the Maroons, the Jamaican Maroons, who were amongst the native, were called Seminoles, were Muslims, Moors who had an ancient presence in America. The chief of this fort, called Fort Negro, was a man of Mandan descent. The Mandans were and are West African Muslims. Mandan groups founded the medieval empires of Granada and Mali Moors. They include the Bambara, the Bambara, the Dila, the Dyula, the Malik or the Malinki, Malinke, the Mandi, the Mand, the Dogon, and the Sinki, the Sinke Moors. The chief at Fort Negro during the invasion of Colonial Clinch was named Abraham. His birth name was Sunuf Tosunij, which means Swanee warrior, and has been associated with the Swanee River in Florida Moors. Exactly, Mo. The Moorish Manding Arabic word Sufuf means powerful spirit, and Tustanigi means warrior. This chief, who had an Moorish heritage, like most of the Maroons in Florida, was not a former slave. His descendancy went back to indigenous people. Abraham served as an interpreter for the Seminoles and as a legal counsel for Hema Miko, John Jumper, and Halada Miko, Chief Billy Bowlegs. Hema Miko was the Seminole chief. His brother Halada Miko was also a chief. Abraham served as a representative of other trip to Washington, D.C. to negotiate a treaty with the United States government in 1832. Sophonis Tusani, also known as Abraham, was a Maroon or a Mu against the Seminoles amongst the Seminoles. He was the chief legal counsel and interpreter. It was he who was at Fort Negro in 1819 flying the Moorish flag of the Islamic empires. This is the famous cherry tree that was chopped down. Abraham soon moved west to Oklahoma, and Chief Hiloda Miko and Chief Himu Miko disappeared in the Everglades. This was the start of the Payne's secret society and other secret society amongst the Creeks and the Cherokee Sagraji. These are the societies that later developed into the ancient Egyptian Arabic order of the Nobles, of the Mystic Shrine, and the Moorish Science Temple of Americas. Are we clear, Moors? Some of what is the connection to the Americas in modern time and history and the effect of our greatest teachers to reacquaint us with this marvelous and most useful history, as witnessed through his activity. Noble Drew Ali had to become very aware of the histories and began to repair our people by repairing the root of our people through a knowledge of self, as he knew at that time the great work continued in the Nation of Islam. In an interview placed in the Muhammad Speaks newspaper in March 23, 1973, Brother Fletcher Majid, a member of the Nation of Islam during the 1930s, serves a witness that these ancient histories were taught openly in the 20th century by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He speaks of the same red flag from a lecture he heard from Honorable Elijah Muhammad in the early 1930s, which will serve as a future proof that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was well aware of the secret relationship that Islam had with the establishment of the American government and the prehistory of the American government. I'm telling you, they knew this. I show you all of the identity cards when they first started. Brother L. Fletcher Muhammad said he came to the Oddfellow Hall at 33rd and State for the first time in the fall of 1933. The messenger told us about this white man, John Hawkins, and how he brought our forefathers here. He said that John Hawkins anchored his ship down on the Nile River. He was flying our flag. He was sailing the banks of the Nile River where our people were, doing the trade. Our flag was flying. Our flag was red, freedom, justice, and equality. When he got out to sea, they lowered our flag. The Moors dominated trade in this period. Trade was dominated by the Moors from the west and north coast of Africa to the Gulf of Mexico before the Inquisition of the Spanish and slow deterioration of the Moorish and Islamic influence. Also Moors, the 1700s, the real was the unit of the currency used in Mexico, Moors, which is the present standard currency of Saudi Arabia. This trade became fully interrupted when the United States developed an independent Marine Corps and Navy in the 1800s. I hope we know that. They fought wars against the Moors, the Barbary Wars, and the Corps and the Navies in the 1800s. You know? So we got to understand this, man. So, as I close with that history,